What's up guys, Omega here and welcome back to GT7 for another lap guide this week. This one for Spa, which is in the Gr.3 cars on the racing hard tyres. Today we're going to be using the Supra. The GTR actually has the fastest time in the world currently as of me doing this video. But I'm very comfortable with the Supra here and I think it's a very good car. And it's what I set my time in, so that's what we're going to go with. I feel like I know it quite well around Spa, this being one of my favorite combinations. So I thought it just makes sense to stick with the Supra. And now just before we get into it, I just wanted to point out that one massive issue with this track is if you touch any of this green stuff that you're seeing on screen right now, this stuff will absolutely murder you. It is probably the worst thing about the track. But once you get used to it and just stay well away from it, no matter what you do, just try and stay off it because it pulls you off and throws you into the shadow realm. There's literally nothing you can do, so avoid it at all costs. And here, starting the lap, you can actually be over to the right-hand side more to widen your entry to get a better run onto the straight. You want to be using second gear to exit this corner and try and get the power down with as little wheel spin as possible. And with this car, you want a slightly short shift, meaning that you want to change before this bar starts to flicker. So around 80 to 90% is probably ideal. I don't always do it perfectly, as you're going to see, but it can make a difference. And getting over to the left-hand side of the track, what we're looking for here is the 100-meter board on your left-hand side. You want to be hard on the brakes all the way down to first gear and try and swing the car in to touch this apex on the inside. On the exit of this corner, be very careful. You don't want to run wide onto that green stuff that we talked about. And just obviously going flat out down here, try to stick towards this wall on the right-hand side. And then once you get to this point, you want to swing the car over quite hard to the left-hand side of the track and take a lot of this first apex so that you can widen your entry into the rest of the corner. And also in the Supra, it is actually faster if you shift at the bottom of this hill rather than trying to rev out fifth to the top. So if you get a perfect run up, you should be able to take it flat out. But on racing hards in Group 3, it can be a little bit difficult, although it is doable. 100% it is doable. Maybe the first lap in the race, you may want to take it a little bit easy, maybe give it a little bit of a lift because you're on cold hard tires. But even in the race, when you get into the groove, you can still do it. And trying to touch this apex on the right-hand side as you come up. Being careful not to attack it too aggressively because it can bump you back off over to the left-hand side here. And this is a critical penalty area, probably the main place that you will get a penalty if you're going to get one on this track. It's the biggest pain point, I would say. So be very careful. Try not to get the right-hand tires over the white line. This is a very fine line. And sometimes you think that you've taken it well and then you get a penalty, or sometimes you think you're going to get a penalty and you don't. So it's a very iffy area. Very problematic sometimes. So flat out all the way down the straight until you get to the 100-meter board on your left. Braking hard and going down the gears all the way to second gear. And to get the best entry into this corner as possible, you want to try to take a little bit of the curb on the left-hand side and widen up the corner. As you come back in, you want to try and touch the apex on the right-hand side. And then as you hit the apex, back up to third gear and just leave it in third gear throughout this section and modulate the throttle, trying to maintain your speed through this area. Give it a bit of power to push the car over to the left-hand side of the track and get ready to swing back into this right-hander. Keep the car in third gear still. I like to short shift here up to fourth gear if I'm carrying enough speed, just because the Supra's engine is so torquey that it pulls out of here really nicely in fourth gear. You can take a little bit of this green stuff on the left. This is one of the bits of green stuff that's not actually too bad as long as you still keep most of your car on the curb. It's probably one of the more forgiving ones, but you still don't want to go too wide. And then as we approach the hairpin, you want to be looking out for the end of the curb on the left-hand side. Braking hard all the way down to first gear and trying to stay nice and snug to the apex all the way around the hairpin. Back up to third gear for the exit and back on the power as soon as you feel the car grip enough. And back over to the right-hand side of the track is where we want to be. And just touch this curb on the right-hand side. You don't really need to get all the way over to the right here, so don't be too worried if you can't get over there. And I brake just slightly and then swing the car in towards the apex on the left. Also, something to note here is don't touch these green poles because they will slow you down dramatically or possibly even spin you off. So try to avoid that. They're another thing that's quite commonplace around this track. And then on the exit, be careful of the green stuff on the right. Out, I go up to fifth. And then what we're looking for here is the 50 board on the right-hand side. Trying to get up on the curb a little bit. Down to fourth gear. Use a decent amount of braking to try and turn the car in. And then once you feel the car is at a good angle, you should be able to, as long as you get the angle right, be flat out all the way around here. Sometimes you may have to lift and get over to the left-hand side of the track. And what we're looking for is the sign over the road. And you want to be braking just before you hit that. Snag the curb on the left just a little bit. All the way down to second gear, I find is the best for rotation. Meet the curb on the right-hand side. Back up to third gear mid-corner, back on the power to push the car to the right a little bit. And then what I like to do, shift down to second very temporarily, just to force the rotation of the car a little bit, and then double shift back up to fourth gear for the exit of the corner, because once again, the Supra's engine is very torquey. Avoid the green stuff on the right, on the exit, get back over to the left-hand side of the track, getting ready for this next right-hander. And here you can use the end of the silver fencing on the right-hand side as that goes off your screen as a braking point, or you can use the edge of the curb, but I like to brake quite a bit beforehand. So just keep it in mind, you want to be braking a little bit earlier than you think for this one. Just go down to third and touch the apex on the left. Get a nice opening for the right-hander. Try and touch the apex on the right. Be careful of this green stuff on the exit once again. And what you want to do here is try to keep it as close to flat out as possible. And what I try to do is sort of wiggle the car out to the left and then the right, and try to swing and use the momentum, meeting the apex on the right-hand side and avoiding this green stuff on the left-hand side. This is one of those points on the track where if you make the mistake and just try to get a little bit too greedy, stay on the throttle a little bit too hard, you will end up in the shadow realm. And just a few lines that are a little bit faster on this track, I think. Stick to your right-hand side just as you're going through here, and then over to the left-hand side as the track starts to bend around to the left. And then coming up to this section, you have quite a significant kink. So what you want to do is get the car over to the right-hand side as much as possible and swing the car in. Again, you can do this flat out, but you have to have the right angle and may require a lift, because on the other end of it, you have this green stuff once again that will just send you off. And what I do here is try to just straight line it as much as possible. So I take a little bit of the curb on the right and then get the car back over to the left-hand side for the final chicane. And what we're looking for here is the 150 board on the left-hand side of the track, braking very hard all the way down. And I go back to first gear, using some of the curb on the left and swinging the car in, taking a decent amount of the curb on the right-hand side. And I go back up to second, a bit of throttle throughout the corner just to maintain speed and push the car to where I want it to go. And then I go back down to first again to help me make the apex on the left, and then back up to second and easy on the power on the way out, and try to maintain as much traction as possible, get the best exit that I can. And that one's good for a 218.408. And it was good enough at the time for a top 10. So I managed to, I'm actually in P11 here, but I do have the little icon, so you can just download my Ghost off the leaderboard for now until if I improve. And if I do, I will still share the Ghost, and you'll be able to find it under the hashtag Omega. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, then I'll leave a video at the end of this one, which explains all about how I share the Ghosts and how to get it. So this one's here for now, but depending on when you see it, I might have gone faster. And what I'll do is I'll play that back in full speed now, so you can see it without me yammering on in the middle of it. And then as always, I'll leave the out of car view till the end, because I know some of you guys appreciate that one. Just don't mind the weird guy in the corner not saying anything. I did this while I was on stream. So, and if you got any value out of today's video, let me know by dropping a like on it and subscribe to the channel. I'd appreciate that very much. I'll now let this play, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.